Since arriving on the Scarlow Railway, Rusty had proved themselves time and time again to be an invaluable asset to the railway's fleet. Rusty's work maintaining the lines and their kind personality meant that the little diesel was well respected by everyone they met. One day, Rusty was performing one of their usual maintenance checks. The little diesel and the workmen were fiercely inspecting the track for any irregularities. "Everything seems fine here, Rusty," one of the workmen said. "We can report that the line is perfectly safe to the Fat Controller." "Very good," Rusty replied. "Let's head back to Croven's Gate." Rusty started to set off, but there was trouble. Their engine spluttered, then it stopped. Try as they might, Rusty couldn't move a wheel. The driver stepped out to have a look. "Your engine's failed, Rusty. We'll have to call for help." "Bother," said Rusty. And today was going so well too. Soon Duncan arrived to help Rusty back to the sheds. "Is everything all right, Rusty?" Duncan asked. "Oh, it's nothing to worry about," Rusty replied. "I can fix my engine, no problem. I'll be back at work by the afternoon, a few days at most." But Rusty was, perhaps, a bit too optimistic. After the little diesel was surveyed at the sheds, the Fat Controller arrived to check on the men's progress. "How are they, gentlemen?" "There's a problem, sir," the engineer replied. "Rusty's engine is old. I'm sorry to say that it means that finding the necessary parts won't be easy." "What?" cried out Rusty in panic. "Does this mean you can't fix me?" "Don't be daft, Rusty," replied the Fat Controller. "You have my word that we'll find those parts. Don't worry." And he smiled warmly at Rusty. But all the same, the Fat Controller wasn't sure himself. He then spoke to the engineers. "Listen to me carefully, gents. I want every man looking for those parts. Contact whoever you can across the island, and if needed, the mainland. That diesel is a valued member of this community, and I will not let them fall into permanent disrepair. Good day, gentlemen." That evening, Rusty spoke to their friends. "Are you sure you're okay?" Peter Sam asked. "Why wouldn't I be?" Rusty replied. "They'll get my parts, and everything will be fine. I may be old, but I'm not going anywhere anytime soon." The narrow-gauge engines tried to remain hopeful, but concern for Rusty spread throughout the shed. The Fat Controller was concerned as well. He had just finished up in his office for the day, although he hadn't approached his work that day with quite the same enthusiasm, when suddenly his assistant ran over to him. "Sir!" he excitedly exclaimed. "We've just had news from the engineers. They've found the parts for Rusty." "Splendid!" the Fat Controller cried. "Come here, my good man," he said, as he went to throw his arms around his assistant. Coming to his senses, he quickly resumed a normal posture. "Yes," the Fat Controller said awkwardly. "That's excellent news. Have them work on Rusty first thing tomorrow." Rusty woke up the next morning to find the engineers ready to go. The little diesel was soon moved out of the shed and over to the work so the repairs could begin. The Fat Controller was there. He winked at Rusty. Rusty was so pleased they felt they'd burst. And soon they were mended good as new, or so everyone thought. A few days later, Rusty was back at work, resuming their normal duties. The little diesel had just finished inspecting the picnic halt when it happened. Once again, Rusty's engine made a series of unusual noises before Rusty ground to a sudden stop. "No, no, no!" Rusty exclaimed. "Blast it! This can't be, it can't be!" And Rusty began to cry. When Duncan arrived to take Rusty back to the sheds, Rusty wasn't hiding their fear anymore, and Duncan felt it best to remain respectfully quiet as he solemnly hauled Rusty home. The Fat Controller arrived as soon as he could, and the engineers all spoke with him and Rusty. "What now?" Rusty asked. "You found those parts. I'm so grateful that you did, but they didn't work. What's going to happen to me now that I'll never work again?" "Nothing's going to happen," the Fat Controller replied. "Gentlemen, what can we do?" "Well, sir," they replied, "there's one last option. It's a big one, but it might be the only thing we can do for Rusty." "What's that?" asked Rusty. "Well," the engineers replied, "your engine is too knackered. It's been worked far past its capabilities. Long and short of it is, the engine is the problem, so we're going to have to fit you with a new one. We've already been looking into options. There's an engine owned by the mainland that's similar enough to yours to work inside you. I'll make the arrangements to have it delivered at once," said the Fat Controller. Rusty responded to the men gratefully. but they were secretly very nervous. When the engines returned that evening, they all noticed how Rusty looked. "How are you, Rusty?" asked Rheneas. "I've been better," Rusty replied. "Why?" asked Duncan. "You're getting a new engine. You'll be fixed." "That's why I'm upset." "I'm sorry," replied Duncan. "I don't quite understand. I've had overhauls and checkups and all of that, but this? A huge part of my body is being replaced. Never had a procedure like this, none of us have. Going to look different, probably feel different. What if I'm rebuilt to the point I'm no longer me?" "So yes, I'm scared, alright. I'm really scared. I've been scared for the past few days. Of not being useful again, and now of not being useful again as me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's fine," interrupted Duncan. "Please, Rusty. You've always been here for us. Let us be here for you." "Thought I was just that smelly diesel to you," said Rusty. I'm sorry, Duncan, that was so long ago." "You are," Duncan admitted. "Then you saved me from my derailment." "Like you saved me from my crash with the trucks," added Peter Sam. "You helped me home after I returned from the works," continued Scarloey. "And you mended our line to perfection, making life easier for all of us," finished Sir Handel. "Everyone loves you, Rusty," smiled Duncan, "and we'll help you get through this together, as a family." Rusty smiled. The little diesel was still afraid, but they were glad that their friends were with them. The following morning, Duncan was delivering his passenger run to meet with Henry at the top station. Henry noticed Duncan's expression. "What's got you so glum, youngster?" Henry asked. Duncan explained Rusty's dilemma to Henry. The big engine's gruff demeanour completely changed. "Let me talk to Rusty," Henry said. "Why?" "Because I know exactly what they're going through. I can help them." The next morning, Rusty was resting in the shed when Henry steamed alongside. "Hey there, youngster. Your Scottish friend was talking to me yesterday. Listen, I can't speak for your specific experience, but I've been through a rebuild as well." "What was it like?" Rusty asked. "Honestly, I won't lie to you. I was afraid as well. I didn't know it would make any difference, and I didn't know what it would feel like. But here's what I found out. I needn't have worried, because the rebuild felt fine, and once it was over, I felt the strongest I had ever felt before. And so will you, I promise you that. And if you're not sure, my train stops close to the works, and I'll come visit you whenever I can. It'll be fine, Rusty. Please don't be scared." Henry's words stuck with Rusty. The little diesel was still unsure, but thanks to Henry, they felt a bit more assured. And when the works were ready for them, Rusty felt ready. The Fat Controller arrived to meet. "Henry told me everything, Rusty. I understand and appreciate your nervousness, but I assure you we'll do all we can to make your stay comfortable." And the Fat Controller was as good as his word. Over the course of the next month, Rusty stayed at the works, as they were taken apart and rebuilt with his brand new engine. Everyone regularly came to check on Rusty. Henry came when he could, and all of the narrow gauge engines came to visit often. This made Rusty's time so much easier. Eventually, Rusty's rebuild was complete. A large crowd of people and engines had assembled at Crovan's Gate Works to see Rusty emerge from the workshop with his new shape and welcome them home. When Rusty pulled out of the workshop, the little diesel looked completely different, but was met with a chorus of whistles and cheers, as everyone was so excited to see their old friend. "How do you feel?" Duncan asked. "Never better," Rusty admitted. "I needn't have worried. I feel so much better with my new engine. But more than that, I'm so appreciative that you were all here for me. Because what's even more important than being useful is knowing that an engine has family."